Good morning, this is Pete Anzalone and welcome to the May PubWorks webinar. Today we'll cover 5 topics that I think will help you get even more out of PubWorks Fleet. Here's a list of today's topics, and we'll start with vehicle and equipment replacement. I recently attended an APWA event in Grand Junction, Colorado, and one of the speakers was from the city and county of Denver. He was the fleet manager, runs a very large fleet. Vehicle replacement was something that was very important to him. And I thought this was very interesting because PubWorks has a number of vehicle replacement functions and reports that you can take advantage of. PubWorks vehicle and equipment replacement requires 2 steps. The first is your equipment inventory setup, and the second is running reports that will provide information as to which vehicles are due for replacement. With regard to vehicle inventory setup, 3 kinds of data are needed to make our software functions work well. These 3 types of data are categorization, especially equipment and vehicle type, and owner department, and financial parameters and replacement parameters. Let's take a look at how and where to do this. We'll get these data items set up for one of our pickup trucks, Unit 1301. Click the Fleet menu. Go down to Equipment, and then All Equipment. Click the Locate button. Type in 1301. Select 1301, a Chevy 2500 pickup. Click the OK button. First, let's look at categorization. While these are not absolutely necessary, they do provide great reporting power. Remember that the values in the drop lists are 100% user-defined. Here, we see that Unit 1301 is a pickup owned by our stormwater department. As for financial parameters, there are useful life, original cost, replacement cost, and scrap value. These support our replacement functions and reports. They also contribute to a depreciation schedule you might want to add to the vehicle record as seen here. Going back to the General Information tab, there are 2 buttons that make calculating original and replacement costs easy. For example, to calculate replacement cost, click the corresponding button here. Provide the original cost, inflation or consumer price index values. We'll go with inflation. Provide start and end years and click Calculate to produce a replacement cost value. Click the Apply button to plug this replacement cost value onto the equipment record. So for Unit 1301, we've got it categorized as a pickup truck in the stormwater division. We've got financial parameters such as original and replacement costs. We have replacement parameters like replacement miles and replacement year. We also have a depreciation schedule and odometer log records and fleet maintenance records. These will prove very useful in the reporting process. Now let's look at how to do replacement reporting. Click the Reports menu, go down to Equipment, and select Equipment Replacement Reports. Here you'll see a reporting screen with 5 report choices at the top, a group by high-level sorting control in the middle, and at the bottom a number of flexible filtering controls that you see in many of our other reporting screens. Running replacement reports is easy. Simply select the radio button at the top and then click the OK button at the bottom. But instead of looking at my entire fleet, I want to limit reporting to just my highway department pickups. So from the department's drop list, I'll select highways. And from the type drop list, I will select pickups. I also want to group results based on equipment and vehicle condition. We've set 2 filters, but there are more options available to you when it comes to report filtering. For example, these M buttons represent multiple choice settings. So for type, right now I've got a single type established as a filter, pickups, but I can do more than that. I can say I want my graders, my cars, my buses and vans all together, and we get a list selected result. I can also do exclusion. Right now I've got highways selected, but maybe I want everything but highways. So select that exclude checkbox. Then in make and model, these fields are wildcard search fields. And we can also search by or filter by model year. Okay, let's run some of these reports. Starting from the top, a simple replacement information listing. First radio button, again filtered by highway department, pickup trucks, grouped by vehicle condition. Clicking OK. Let's zoom our print preview into 125%. Notice the grouping by condition, fair, good, poor. Notice the age of the vehicle in the center with an average age summary. Also notice the replacement cost values, and the double star indicates whether or not that vehicle has exceeded its service life. The next report is replacement funding. Same grouping by equipment condition, same filtering by highway department pickup trucks. Click OK. Zoom in. The annual replacement funding column is the amount you'd have to save annually to replace that vehicle based on its replacement cost and its estimated service life. Of particular interest should be the summary lines per group. Our next report is to show replacement candidates based on a replacement year. The replacement year is a parameter we showed how to establish earlier in the presentation. So let's make that third radio button choice. Let's set the replacement year threshold to be everything strictly less than 2016. Same grouping, same filtering, same OK button. Here the results will show a center column with the letter R in bold type that identifies the replacement candidates based on our criteria of strictly less than 2016. There's also a life-to-date maintenance column. A star will show that that vehicle's life-to-date maintenance has exceeded its original cost. That's a flag for replacement. Another flag for replacement is the double star, showing that these vehicles are or have outlived their service life. Our next report is to show replacement candidates based on whether or not they've exceeded their replacement odometer value. The replacement odometer value is a parameter we showed how to establish earlier in this presentation. So let's select this fourth radio button, keep the same grouping and filtering, same OK button. The report shows in the center a column of R's. These represent the replacement candidates. These candidates have an odometer value that exceeds their replacement odometer value. We're also showing whether or not life-to-date maintenance exceeds original cost. We're also showing whether or not these vehicles have exceeded their estimated service life with a double star on the right. Our final report is to show replacement candidates based on whether or not they're approaching their replacement odometer. This fifth radio button choice gives us that report. We can change these parameters, these threshold parameters. They're customer defined. Same grouping, same filtering, same OK button. Here the report will show us replacement candidates and those that are approaching replacement candidate ship, if you will. So the R is a strictly replacement candidate. The A means that they're approaching. The parameters that we use to drive that calculation are up here in the upper left. And at the bottom edge of the report is a key that describes what these abbreviations stand for. Our last segment on vehicle replacement takes us back to Unit 1301, that Chevy 2500 pickup we looked at earlier. Let's close this reporting screen. Click the Fleet menu, go down to Equipment, out to All Equipment. Let's locate 1301. Double click on the row for the Chevy 2500. And there's our pickup truck Remember, for 1301, we have a depreciation schedule here and a wealth of fleet maintenance repair data here. Based on these two sources of data, maintenance repair costs and depreciation, we can look at a chart that tells us when to replace the vehicle. So down here near the bottom center is a button called Chart. Click it, and this chart will appear, where the blue line representing value of the vehicle, net asset value of the vehicle, and the red line, maintenance costs, where these two lines intersect, suggest when that vehicle should be replaced. This one shows that it should have been replaced perhaps in 2010. That wraps up our first fleet maintenance topic for today. Our next topic will cover fleet work orders as invoices. We have a Florida customer that services fire equipment and apparatus for a number of neighboring towns. Tracking whether or not work was paid for is very important to them. Our design idea was simple. Treat the fleet work order as an invoice. The work order number is the invoice number. So we added a checkbox and date field to track payment status and payment date. We added some filtering capabilities for invoices to the fleet work order status screen, and we added 3 reports to our fleet maintenance report group. Let's take a look at this. First, fleet work orders. Click the fleet menu, then down to fleet work orders. Click the edit button on the button bar. This makes the paid and paid date fields very easy to see. Turning the paid checkbox on indicates that the work order invoice has been paid. When that is set, the paid date will be auto-populated with the current computer date. That date, of course, can be changed to whatever value you wish. So you've marked invoices as paid, but how do you keep track of these when you might have dozens or even hundreds of such invoices? Fleet work order status can help. Let's close this fleet work order screen and open fleet work order status. Click fleet, then down to fleet work order status. Here you'll find a new set of radio buttons to help manage paid status at the bottom of the screen. To see how this works, let's imagine we service vehicles for our sheriff's department and we invoice them for such services. Let's look at all the sheriff's department work orders. First, select Sheriff from the department filter. Then on the left-hand side, in the status group, select All. Here we can see that for the sheriff's department, we have 80 fleet work orders. From these 80 work orders, let's see which are complete but have not yet been paid. So on the left-hand side, select Completed, and down here towards the right, click on Unpaid. Here we find 12 fleet work orders, totaling $2,936. Now let's look at the reports that complement this invoicing capability. First, let's close this screen. Click Reports, down to Fleet Reports, out to the right to Fleet Maintenance Reports. Here, right in the center of the screen, we have 3 new report choices for invoicing: Invoice Detail, Invoice Listing, and Invoice Summary. Let's run these reports, starting with Invoice Summary. Click Invoice Summary. Notice that the paid status radio buttons appear. Let's group our report by equipment type. And let's filter the report by the Sheriff's Department. One last setting, let's look at unpaid invoices only. And now click the OK button to view the report. So here's the invoice summary report, filtered by the Sheriff's Department. You can see the Sheriff has cars, pickups, a total of 12 invoices, summing to $2,936. For our next report, let's drill down a level. Close the print preview screen, and let's look at the invoice listing. After selecting Invoice Listing, click the OK button at the bottom of the screen to preview the report. The invoice listing shows an invoice-by-invoice summary for each of the 12 unpaid invoices. Remember, the invoice number is the fleet work order number. This is key when you need to find the invoice/fleet work order and mark it paid. Drilling down further, let's look at the Invoice Detail report. Select Invoice Detail. But let's focus on a single vehicle for this report. So let's look at Unit 1896. Key 1896. into the equipment code drop list and click OK. Here we see all the parts and labor details for invoice number 12,358, including PM items serviced and notes. There's even remittance information at the very bottom of the report. That wraps up our second fleet maintenance topic for today. Our next topic is fuel and odometer log reports. First, let's be sure we know how to find these reports. There are two options. The first is clicking the fleet menu, going down to the fuel and odometer log, and clicking the reports button on the lower right-hand portion of the screen. This will display the fuel and odometer log reports screen. The second option is from the reports menu. From the reports menu, go down to fleet reports and then to the fuel and odometer log reports. This will display the same fuel and odometer log reports screen. There are a number of reporting options to explore here, but let's say we want to perform an analysis of fuel consumption for Sheriff's Department vehicles over the past 3 years. Let's enter a 3-year time frame. 5, 18, 13 through 5, 18, 16. Let's filter by the Sheriff's Department. Let's group by equipment type, and then let's select a summary listing and click OK. Our print preview shows summary line items per department with fuel quantities, fuel cost totals, and percentages. These numeric values are reflected in the pie and bar charts below, providing some very nice data visualization. Our next report is a miles per gallon analysis for the Sheriff's Department vehicles over the same past 3 years. So, no need to change our filtering by date range or department. We'll keep with equipment type grouping and select the MPG report, and then of course click OK. Here we see 8 vehicles grouped by equipment type, each with a summary of its fuel transactions over the past 3 years. Some highlights include the current odometer value that the vehicle has, the miles driven, fuel quantity consumed, and a per gallon calculation on the far right. Notice the plus or minus character in the extreme far right. This is a flag telling you whether the vehicle is above or below its expected range for miles per gallon. Next is the latest odometer report. This is very useful for year-end reporting purposes, providing an efficient view of where your vehicles are with respect to their odometer readings. We'll stay with the same filtering and grouping and select the latest odometer log report choice and click OK. Here we have our same set of vehicles grouped by equipment type, and out on the right are the latest odometer readings and the dates of those readings. The source of these readings is either fueling transactions or fleet work orders. Our next report is the Master Listing Report. This report is a vehicle inventory report providing asset and odometer information. Let's stay with the same filtering and the same grouping. Let's select Master Listing and then click OK. The Master Listing displays a number of vehicle asset attributes like vehicle identification number, license plate, operator driver, department, class, and type abbreviations, as well as the latest odometer value and the acquisition date. This is a great report for your auditor. Our last report is the meter report. It provides a variety of utilization figures. Let's keep with our same grouping and filtering settings. Let's select the meter report and then click OK. The meter report highlights each vehicle's begin and end miles, miles driven, and a monthly average. This is great for utilization analysis, and utilization analysis might be an important part of your vehicle replacement program. That wraps up our third fleet maintenance topic for today. Our next topic is a survey of some of the lesser known but very powerful fleet system settings. To get to fleet settings, and this is an admin user power function, click the fleet menu and then fleet settings near the bottom. When it comes to fleet settings, most of these control the behavior of fleet work orders. I encourage you to look at how your settings are established and perhaps getting some assistance from our help desk. Going through all of these settings isn't practical. I'll take you through a few, but if what I cover doesn't suit your needs, please contact our help desk. First, settings that pertain to making certain fields required or not required. Let's look at 5 together. Require an odometer reading when the work order is created. Require a repair priority value. Require a repair reason. Require a shop location on the detail record. And require a date for a completed work order. Once you've made your fleet settings, click Apply to establish those settings and keep the screen open. Or click OK to establish those settings and close the fleet settings screen. I'm going to click Apply to keep the screen open. Now let's see how these settings take hold. Let's open a fleet work order. Click Fleet, then Fleet Work Orders. Let's create a new fleet work order by clicking the Add button. And notice that the current miles, priority code, and reason code fields are all colored with a yellow background, indicating that they are required fields. The yellow backgrounds are there to make it easy to see which fields are required and which are not. Here we can see that equipment, odometer, priority, reason, and date in are required. Let's enter them. Date in was auto-filled thanks to a fleet system setting. Let's revisit those required field settings. If we clear them all, let's see how this affects the appearance of the fleet work order screen. Fleet work orders, add. Now we can see that only the equipment values, the date in, are required, but current miles, priority, and reason are no longer required. The white background coloration is for optional fields. Let's look at settings to make it easier to select a mechanic on your fleet work order detail records. There's a checkbox here, labeled Mechanics Only for Fleet Work Orders. I'll set that and click Apply. This setting will take advantage of employees who are marked as mechanics on their employee screen. Here on the employee screen, there's a checkbox labeled Mechanic, and Ned Arcata is one of our mechanics. These settings will cause the fleet work order detail screen to limit employee mechanic choices to only those marked as mechanics. Just 3 mechanics listed here. This will help with both speed and accuracy of your data entry. A related setting can be used to autofill the mechanic value with the employee name of the logged in user. This checkbox here. Use logged in employee as default on work orders. Looking at my user record, it says I'm logged in as the admin user and my employee name is Charles Greenlee. Charles Greenlee has been marked as a mechanic. Now when I go to a fleet work order, let's see how these settings take hold. Click Edit. Let's add a new detail. And automatically, Charles Greenlee has been placed in the employee name drop-down list. A new setting controls how much additional information you can enter as you create parts on the fly. This checkbox here. Parts on the fly extended information. Let's see how this works on the fleet work order detail screen. Let's add a new part to the fleet work order. Click Edit, then Modify Detail for the first row where Ned Arcata is the mechanic. Into the parts grid, in the part number cell, type in EX123, tab past description and task, put in a quantity of 1 and a unit cost of $22.99. Hit tab. This screen provides 6 additional fields for extended information on the new part. These fields, if filled out, will be stored with the new part record in your parts inventory. Let's see how that happens. Ace Hardware, Airport Supplies, Purchase Order 1234, Invoice 555, comment ABC. Click Yes to save that part record. Let's be sure to save the fleet work order detail record with part EX123 and save the work order as a whole. And now let's look up part EX123, clicking Fleet, Parts, All, Parts. Click Locate, and then type in EX1. There it is. Let's click OK and see the part record. As you can see, the part screen is showing part EX123, primary vendor Ace Hardware, fund airport supplies, added on the fly, May 25th. The transaction log tab also shows an add transaction, purchase order 1234, invoice 555. Adding parts on the fly with extended information should help save time in keeping your parts inventory up to date and accurate. That wraps up fleet maintenance topic number 4 for today. Our 5th and last topic is the fleet dashboard. To display the fleet dashboard, click the fleet menu and then go to the very bottom and click Dashboard. The dashboard provides a bird's eye view of the fleet data you have in PubWorks. First thing to notice is that this is a 2-panel display. One analyzes repair and maintenance costs. The other, fuel usage and the nature of your vehicle inventory. Let's return to the Repair and Maintenance Costs tab. Here we have 2 charts, a grid of fleet work orders, and a variety of controls at the bottom that allow for a wide range of filtering and grouping. Filtering allows us to analyze different sets of fleet work orders and their costs, and to display this information graphically. Let's take a quick look at our current set of filters. We're using our custom date range filter, which I have set to a sliding window of 365 days, and incomplete work orders only. The remaining set of filters are not presently in use. Let's make a slight change to the current set of filters we have in place. Instead of looking at all incomplete work orders, let's look at all work orders for the past 365 days. From this display, a trend makes itself obvious. The number of fleet work orders per month dramatically declined of late, and we can see that the highway department dominates our fleet maintenance costs. The dashboard can help you drill down into this information. Let's filter by highway department and then group by equipment type. Looking at the chart in the upper left-hand corner, over the past 365 days, our graders, trucks, and plows really stand out with respect to maintenance costs. Let's turn our attention to the Fuel Usage and Vehicle Inventory tab. Here we can see that fuel use and cost has been very steady over the last 7 months. We see that highway department vehicles are rather old compared to some of the other departments. That highway department vehicles dominate with respect to total value, and they also dominate with regard to vehicle count. Reviewing the use of filters and grouping controls, let's look at sheriff's vehicles grouped by type and fuel consumption analyzed by week. The simple manipulation of these controls is a great way to get different views of your data for all sorts of analysis. That wraps up our fleet maintenance topics for today. Please mark your calendars with our upcoming webinar with Ellen Winter on June 22nd, covering our wide range of customer support resources. If you have any questions or comments, or have any software support or service needs, please contact our help desk using this information. Thank you.